Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Pitaya Movie Channel. Today's feature is the Spanish thriller The Bar. As the film commences on the sun-drenched streets of Madrid, a colorful tapestry of life unfolds. Elena, the female protagonist, hurries to a rendezvous. An enigmatic merchant conceals his true intent. An Israeli beggar is chased away by the police, and a posh lady, Trini, reluctantly runs up a tab due to insufficient funds. Elena's phone battery dies mid-conversation, leaving her no choice but to seek a charger in a nearby bar. Within the dimly lit establishment, scattered patrons occupy the space, including a bank employee engrossed in a newspaper waiter, sadder-bearded man Nacho, and bar owner Amparo. Elena orders a cup of coffee and takes a seat, just as a coughing, rotund man enters and shuffles towards the restroom. Passing by the wary patrons, they furrow their brows, fearing they might contract some illness. Amparo is visibly annoyed by the restroom freeloaders vowing to teach them a lesson someday. Elena inquires about a charger, and the eager waiter, Sadder, striving to impress, produces a veritable mountain of chargers to help her search. The beggar, chased by the police on the street, enters the bar as well. Upon his arrival, he waves his arms frantically, shouting loudly, venting his frustration from being driven away. Amparo assumes he is here to cause trouble. The beggar pulls out a few coins, proving he has money, and uses them to purchase some food. Trini, who had run up a tab at the fruit stand earlier, also enters. Amparo gossipingly informs the patrons that Trini's husband is rarely home, leaving her feeling quite lonely. The beggar lingers at the bar, hoping for a lucky break. Andres, the white-bearded man by the window, stands to pay his bill, suggesting the beggar should be sent to a shelter. The janitor nearby chuckles in agreement, asserting all trash is the government's responsibility, and evidently the beggar is the refuse that needs to be dealt with. On the other side, the bank employee, tired of waiting for his meal, prepares to leave. He pats the beggar, who's bothering Elena, and tells the waiter to give his meal to him. At that moment, the enigmatic businessman Sergio enters from outside, ordering a cup of coffee. Suddenly, a gunshot rings out in the street. An errant bullet, seemingly from nowhere, strikes the departing bank employee. He collapses to the ground like a deflated ball. The surrounding crowd screams and scatters. The bar's patrons, momentarily unsure of what's transpired, huddle together, casting terrified glances out the door. At this moment, the street is already devoid of people. The location of the shooter remains unclear, hidden among the surrounding high-rises. Everyone attempts to call for help, only to discover their phones have lost signal at some unknown point. The frantic beggar mutters under his breath, "The dead are fortunate, for they shall meet Jehovah." The kind-hearted janitor wishes to rush out and rescue the injured. The others warn him of the danger outside, but fail to deter him. As he crouches to assess the situation, another bullet mercilessly penetrates his skull. Chaos erupts within the bar. Patrons either seek cover or lie prone on the floor. Some speculate it may be a terrorist attack similar to the shootings that occurred in Paris. Others wonder if the work of a madman. Some still hope for police or medical personnel to come to their rescue. Sadder reveals that all phones have lost signal, suggesting it must be intentionally blocked. This implies a premeditated operation is underway. The statement drops like a bomb among the crowd, causing waves of unrest. Suddenly, the beggar stands and declares he is a church collection plate bearer. God will ensure his safety. He opens the door, intending to leave. Amparo challenges him, saying, "Have you forgotten this is no longer sacred ground?" The words jolt the beggar into realization. He reluctantly returns to his seat within the bar. Elena suggests they try watching the news on the bar's television. With an incident of this magnitude, there must be some coverage. Yet, to everyone's surprise, there is not a trace of the shooting incident on the TV. As the group becomes despondent, Trini's keen senses detect something amiss outside. She gazes out the door and is astonished to find the two bodies have vanished. Uncertain how long they have been trapped in the bar, everyone is growing weary. Trini cries out, wondering why the bodies were removed, but they were left behind. Sadder offers a bolder conjecture. No one could silently move the bodies and clean the bloodstains. This could be a supernatural event or perhaps a test by the government. The others are clearly skeptical of his wild claim. Amparo even slaps him to bring him back to his senses. As the discussion continues, more and more conspiracy theories are put forth, such as the presence of a dangerous individual among them, and the outside shooter is here to ambush that person, or the possibility of a hidden bomb within the bar. Upon hearing the word bomb Nacho, the bearded man looks anxious and slowly moves toward his black backpack, attempting to hide it with his foot. Sergio catches a glimpse of his actions, and everyone turns their attention to Nacho. Andres and Sergio subdue Nacho together. Satter retrieves the black backpack and prepares to search for suspicious items. Nacho struggles and explains there's only a piece of clothing and a Quran inside. Everyone urges him to be cautious, fearing a hidden bomb. The irritable Amparo snatches the bag and finds Nacho's words to be true, except there is also a hard drive. The misunderstood Nacho angrily points at Sergio's briefcase on the counter, asking if it couldn't contain a bomb. The group demands Sergio to relinquish his briefcase so they can inspect it. He stammers and tries to snatch the briefcase back from Amparo, as the situation threatens to spiral out of control. Andres finally reveals he is a retired police officer and pulls out a gun. Everyone's attention is drawn to the gun. The beggar seizes the briefcase when Amparo is caught off guard. Fearing the unpredictable beggar and the possibility of a bomb, they take turns trying to persuade him. However, the beggar opens the briefcase anyway. Inside, they find nothing but provocative lingerie. A false alarm, after all. Just as everyone breathed a sigh of relief, a hurried knocking sound came from the direction of the restroom. It turned out to be the chubby man who had slipped in to use the bathroom earlier. In the chaos, everyone had forgotten about him. The door was locked, and no one could force it open. Andres quickly fired several shots, blasting the door open. At this point, the chubby man was slumped over the toilet, his body convulsing, seemingly unconscious. Elena bravely stepped forward to nudge the chubby man, but found an empty syringe on the floor. At that moment, an armored vehicle approached the bar, drawing everyone's attention. The people in the bar were overjoyed, thinking they were finally being rescued. However, the vehicle's occupants were fully armed quarantine personnel. They ignored the shouts from the bar. A stack of tires was taken off the vehicle. They set the tires on fire, and with that, the last hope of rescue went up in flames. Everyone's hearts sank once more. Soon after, a news report on the bar fire was aired on the television. Only those inside the bar knew that it was all a cover-up for unspeakable secrets. The chubby man, who had been unconscious moments ago, suddenly stood up. With wide, bulb-like eyes, he stumbled a few steps towards the others and then, wavering, collapsed once more. After warning everyone to stay away, the chubby man took his last breath in this world. The death of the chubby man left everyone in shock, and the cell phone that fell from his body revealed a hidden secret. It turned out that the chubby man was a soldier who had been infected with a deadly virus while on a mission in Africa. For a moment, everyone stared at each other, at a loss for what to do. The aroma of food filled the bar again. Everyone sat down and shared their stories like a last-ditch effort before the end of the world. After a morning of use, everyone's phones had run out of battery. Only the soldier's phone still had some power left. Elena and Nacho were searching for a signal in a corner. When they finally found one, Nacho hurriedly called his assistant, but was interrupted by an anxious Satter. In their struggle, the phone consumed the last of its battery power. At that moment, Amparo suddenly stared at the phone and said, "This belonged to the deceased." Touching. It will most likely result in infection. So the people in the bar quickly divided into two groups. Amparo, Sergio, and Andres had not touched any potentially infected items. They hid behind the bar, and Andres used his gun to force the remaining people to the window side. Elena looked at Amparo in disbelief, saying, "I've never seen anything so despicable." But Amparo argued that, although it was heartbreaking, even her beloved waiter could not be exempted. The storage room of the bar was currently the best place for quarantine. The remaining people were herded in one by one. The body of the deceased chubby soldier was also dragged in. 5 individuals eyed one another in the storage room. Sharing air with a corpse was far from pleasant. Trini was the first to break down. She gasped for air in large gulps, frantically pounding on the tightly shut door, attempting to break free. Yet, in the end, she knocked over a crate of wine. Broken glass littering the floor calmed her down. Observing the spilled liquid, Nacho began to ponder. If there was liquid, there must be a drain somewhere. Indeed, there was a narrow sewer entrance covered by a sheet of parchment. The beggar, reeking worse than the sewer, guzzled a bottle of wine. Discarding the glass bottle into the sewer, the splashing water indicated it was not very deep. Facing the filthy, repugnant sewer, no one dared to venture. Only the beggar, fouler than the sewer, eagerly volunteered, "It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." Uttering these words, the beggar disrobed. Satyr applied lubricant to his body. Encouraged by the others, the beggar entered, only to become hopelessly stuck. No amount of kicking or stomping could budge him. Their efforts were rewarded with anguished screams. At that moment, gunshots echoed from above. Those who had been near the beggar quickly pressed against the walls. Satyr listened through the door. After a long while, silence prevailed outside. Only then did he understand. The 3 people above had been killed. Nacho took a quick step to turn off the storage room light. Pressing his ear against the door again, he listened for any movement. A cloud of smoke began to descend from above, as if someone was setting the bar ablaze for the purpose of disinfection. The tense atmosphere spread like the smoke. Reluctantly, Elena helped them grab the beggar's hand to pull him out. She accidentally applied too much force and fell backward onto the corpse. Screaming, she ran away. Trini struggled to catch her breath. Crying, she exclaimed, "I need air." Attempting to push the door open, she instantly burned her hand from the heat. After bandaging the agitated Trini hand, Nacho cautiously opened the door. He surveyed the surroundings. Traces of destruction from the fire were everywhere. The bodies of the 3 individuals were also gone. The door had been sealed shut. Nothing could be seen outside, led by Nacho. The group slowly emerged from the storage room. In a corner, Andres' abandoned gun was discreetly pocketed by the sharp-eyed Nacho, holding Amparo's burnt pendant. Satyr squinted and said, "She really was a piece of work." Elena countered that fear changes people. Nacho responded that fear reveals one's true self. The beggar scoffed, "We are all insignificant beings. The rest are lies." Trini, having seemingly forgotten her pain, became emotional again, demanding to leave. Nacho warned her, "If you want to die, don't drag us down with you." There were still many supplies in the bar. Perhaps they could hold out until the day they were forgotten. Satyr pessimistically said that they might be dead before that day arrived. At that moment, a sudden ringtone emanated from a corner of the room. Elena picked up the phone and saw someone was trying to contact the deceased rotund soldier. After carefully examining the information in his phone, the mystery was finally unraveled. It turned out that after being infected with the virus, the hefty soldier, unwilling to wait for his fate, obtained several experimental vaccines with the help of a friend. He then fled to the bar. However, the police had already tracked his whereabouts and promptly surrounded the establishment. Unfortunately, the experimental vaccine did not work, and he met a tragic end, as everyone felt at a loss. The phone revealed that a nun had been successfully cured by the vaccine. There was still a possibility that the vaccine could work. Hope for survival began to rise in their hearts. At that moment, a call came in. Cautious Nacho suggested it might be a government trap to test if anyone was still alive. But urged by the others, he answered the call. Unfortunately, the phone's battery ran out and it shut down. The agitated beggar raised his fist, ready to punch Nacho Satyr. Attempting to intervene, suddenly recalled that his charger had miraculously survived the fire, meaning there was still a chance to make contact with the outside world. Elena recalled the soldier mentioned in his phone that after taking 1 dose, there were still 4 doses left. This meant that there were 4 more vaccine doses hidden somewhere in the bar. After searching the body without finding any trace of the vaccines, they concluded that the doses could only be in the restroom where the hefty man had been. Meanwhile, the beggar who remained upstairs had already grabbed the vaccines. Upon discovering the vaccines, everyone rejoiced. But the erratic beggar suddenly became crafty. He said, "There are only 4 vaccine doses, but 5 of us, what should we do?" The 4 people outside the door panicked. No one wanted to find the cure, only to helplessly watch themselves die. Nacho proposed drawing lots, but Satyr refused, claiming he had bad luck. Elena suggested dividing the doses among the 5 of them. Nacho questioned her. "What if that renders the vaccine ineffective? We wouldn't be able to save any of us." As everyone fiercely debated, the beggar took advantage of the situation and injected himself with a dose of the vaccine. Nacho wanted to use the gun to stop him, but it was already too late. Only 3 life-saving vaccines remained. The beggar, confident that Nacho wouldn't risk revealing their presence in the bar by firing the gun, brazenly mocked him. Enraged, Nacho fought the beggar, but he was no match and was knocked to the ground. Even the gun was taken by the beggar. Now he has the upper hand. The beggar angrily scolded, "Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Just because there aren't enough doses, people like me who are poor should be sacrificed, right?" His words made everyone feel somewhat guilty. However, Trini still instructed Satyr to retrieve the vaccines on the ground. Satyr was knocked down by a shot from the beggar, and the vaccines fell into the basement. Trini seized the opportunity to run downstairs and grab the vaccines. But before she could celebrate, she accidentally dropped the vaccines into the sewer due to her bandaged hands. Seeing the vaccines fall, everyone had no choice but to sit down and rest. The room temperature was very high. Elena was extremely thirsty. After drinking a large gulp of cola, she noticed Satter staring at her. Satter obviously didn't want to let the opportunity slip away. He tentatively suggested that maybe someone small and thin enough could crawl into the sewer. Elena showed a pained expression. With a camera cut, Elena, now stripped down to her underwear, had her entire body coated with a thick layer of grease. The beggar, still holding the gun, didn't forget to tease Elena with quotes from the Bible, making her feel extremely uncomfortable. Once prepared, Elena began to crawl into the drain. The waiter exerted all his strength to push Elena. She was in unbearable pain. Her delicate skin was rubbed raw and started bleeding. Fortunately, Elena still managed to enter the sewer through the drain. Everyone shone a light down. Looking at her, Elena carried everyone's hope. In due time, she emerged from the water, grasping the vaccine. Yet she did not heed Nacho's advice to tie the vaccine to a rope and send it up. All they could do was to constantly coax her at the entrance. The beggar on the side kept taunting them, as if he already knew this outcome. Elena was well aware that if the vaccine was sent up, no one would pull her up. So she demanded people from above to come down. Only then would they get the vaccine in order to survive. People disregarded their concerns. Nacho dismantled a thick pipe, using the other end to strike the hole and expand it. After a few attempts, the beggar on the side saw Nacho couldn't break open the hole, so he took matters into his own hands. Seizing this opportunity, Elena sought her way through the labyrinth-like sewer. Stashing the vaccine away, following the light, she discovered a drain connected to the ground. Peering out, countless police officers formed a circle. Inside the circle, epidemic prevention personnel were disinfecting 3 charred corpses. They were Amparo, Andres, and Sergio, who had been killed in the bar earlier. Elena, frightened, fell from the drain. After some pounding, the hole finally allowed normal-sized people to pass through. Everyone couldn't wait to crawl down. Only the heaviest, Trini, got stuck. Fortunately, everyone worked together to pull her down. Her fall, however, left people sprawling below. As the beggar was about to climb ashore from the water, Nacho seized the opportunity and tackled him, fighting for the gun in his hand. For only with the powerful weapon in hand would they have the right to live. The beggar floundered in the water, yelling, "I'm going to kill you, Nacho!" Then 2 gunshots rang out. Following that, Nacho, covered in blood, crawled out of the water. Leaning against the wall, he gasped, exhausted. The other 3 people watched Nacho warily, afraid he might make another move. Nacho wanted to explain he wasn't that ruthless, but he couldn't find the words. Everyone was on the verge of breaking down under the pressure. After a moment of silence, Nacho walked over to Elena with the gun, asking, "Why won't you believe I'm a good person and entrust the vaccine to me?" Elena looked at him and sadly said, "You've become just like the beggar you killed." Upon hearing Elena's words, Nacho nearly lost his sanity. He grabbed Satter, pointing the gun at his head, telling Elena, "If I kill him, there will only be 3 of us left." Elena finally gave in, leading the group to retrieve the vaccine. On the way, in the darkness, Satter accidentally fell into the water. Instead of helping him, Trini kept pushing him under, lying to Elena and Nacho, claiming he must have drowned. In the emergency, Nacho fired the gun to illuminate the sewer. Seeing everything before him, he looked at Trini in disbelief and angrily called her a vile woman. Satter, who had miraculously survived, kept accusing Trini and questioned her why she didn't sacrifice herself if she truly wanted to solve the problem. At this point, Trini could only bear the consequences of her actions alone. Nacho held the gun at Trini, his trembling hand unable to pull the trigger. "I turn away from others, not because I don't care, but because I'm ashamed to be seen." These were Trini's last words. She took the gun from Nacho's hand and silently walked to a dark, lightless corner. A gunshot echoed. She atoned for her actions. Too many people had died before their eyes that day. The remaining 3 couldn't help but grieve, bursting into tears. Now there was enough vaccine for the 3 of them. Elena retrieved the vaccine from its hiding place, distributed 1 each to Nacho and Satter. As they prepared to inject themselves, the sound of a haunting melody, like coins dropping, echoed from the end of the sewer. Trembling with fear, the 3 retraced their steps, finding 2 coins placed on Trini's corpse's eyes. At some point, a shudder ran through Elena's heart. A sense of foreboding rose within her. As she turned her head, Satter had been knocked into the water by a steel pipe emerging from the shadows. A pool of blood spread in the water. The culprit was none other than the beggar whom everyone believed had been killed. Elena and Nacho were utterly horrified. Facing the Grim Reaper, the unarmed duo could only turn and flee. The beggar shouted, "Scruffy lad, come and try your luck against me again." As he chased after the two, they hid in the dark water, praying not to be discovered. The beggar continued to wave his steel pipe in fury, asking why they had tried to kill him. In fact, he had helped them. This was biting the hand that fed them. Elena and Nacho were already so scared they could barely breathe. They tried to sneak away, but still alerted the beggar. He pursued his prey like a wolf, hunting down and annihilating a flock of sheep. The light outside was just ahead. The two finally saw the exit of the sewer. Elena went up first. Nacho was still entangled with the beggar behind him. At this point, the beggar had completely lost his sanity. All he wanted was to see them die before his eyes. They were almost at the exit, but Elena slipped. Startled, she screamed. The vaccine she had clenched in her mouth fell as a result. As the beggar was about to catch up, Elena could not care for the vaccine, frantically pounding on the manhole cover, but it was too heavy. At this moment, Nacho was caught by the beggar too. He knew if they did not leave, neither of them could escape. He handed the vaccine to Elena with a smile, assuring her he would be all right. Then, with his last ounce of strength, he dragged the beggar down with him. As Elena cried out, both met their end together. Tears streamed down Elena's face. She endured the immense grief and injected herself with the vaccine. After much effort, she finally pushed open the manhole cover. Struggling, she climbed out, continuing to move forward in a daze. Amidst the odd stares of the people around her, Nacho had sacrificed his life for her to see the outside world again. She had no reason to stop. A kind-hearted, middle-aged woman draped her own coat over Elena. As Elena walked past a street-side shop with a TV, it was reporting a tragic fire crossing the street. Elena's date passed by her side, casting a puzzled look at the woman who should have been in the hotel with him. Elena did not acknowledge him. She continued to walk until she disappeared into the crowd. The film ends. The bar in the film is created as a closed room-like space. The unknown lethal bullet outside is key to maintaining the confined atmosphere. It likely draws inspiration from the American film The Mist. Unknown elements always instill great fear and pressure in people. And under such fear and pressure, no one can escape unscathed. Human flaws become infinitely magnified. All sorts of suspicion and conjecture arise from people's every move. Whether it's the seemingly calm Nacho or the most frenzied beggar, they all ultimately meet the same breakdown under these emotions. The primitive survival instinct begins from this moment. No one cares about their identity. Staying alive is the ultimate goal. Violence is the first choice in a lawless state. Whoever gets the gun has the power. As for choosing sides, it's fully demonstrated that in a crisis, people often believe in unconvincing evidence, just like the manipulative witch in The Mist. After all, they all need a spiritual leader to deceive themselves and escape reality. Like many genre films, this one has flaws in the details, mainly reflected in the control of character emotions and personality, such as Trini, who kills for the antidote one moment and immediately takes her own life in remorse the next. This sudden shift is too abrupt for an ensemble drama. Of course, the merits outweigh the flaws. As a 2017 Berlin Film Festival contender, The Bar has many noteworthy aspects. The film's swift and sharp dialogue keeps the atmosphere tense throughout. It effortlessly immerses the audience in the characters' roles. At the same time, the film's suspense is preserved until the end. Does the vaccine work? Why does Elena, who escapes, head straight for the crowd? Is she determined to spread the virus? What other metaphors does the film want to present? Feel free to leave comments and discuss. That's it for this video. Thank you for your continued support as always. See you next time.